From luxury entree to top of the protein pyramid, chicken has risen to dominance in the American diet. I'll share how that happened, talk about snack food sustainability, and make a southwestern inspired recipe with no tomatoes in this week's Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper white chicken chili.
White chicken chili is a spin on traditional chili made with beef and tomatoes. This is made with chicken and has no tomatoes in it. So let's put together the ingredients that we're going to need to make our white chicken chili. And there are a lot of spices that go into this in small amounts so that it blends the flavors. I've marked a bag, white chicken chili, and of course the first thing that we're going to need is a 5-ounce can of white chicken breast. Put that in the bag. We'll also need beans. I've selected pinto beans. You can use white navy beans or great northern beans. I think the pinto beans work really well in this recipe. And we're going to need a 1/4 cup of dried pinto beans. I've measured those out into a small plastic Loctite bag, and I'll just place those in here. I also want the 4-ounce snack size of corn niblets, so we'll place this in the bag as well. And now I'll put together all the ingredients that I'll need for the chili mix, which I'll place in this Loctite plastic bag. The first thing I'll need is 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of powdered milk, a 1/2 teaspoon of chicken bouillon, these are granules, and a 1/4 teaspoon each of garlic powder, chili powder, cumin, and oregano. I'll add in a 1/2 teaspoon of minced onion, a 1/2 teaspoon of cilantro, a dash of black pepper, and optionally you can put in a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper, or as I'm going to use, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried jalapeno peppers. All of those ingredients are in my Loctite bag, and I'll place those in the paper bag. And lastly, as a side dish, I'm going to add in 2 ounces of Frito corn chips so that I have something to go along with my chili. I've measured those out into a Loctite plastic bag. You just get a single serving bag of Fritos or whatever corn chips you might like. Again, it's not necessary, it just adds to the meal. I'm going to seal this up, and this will be my supper out at the campsite. I'll see you out there. But first, take a look at this segment.
Chicken is the most consumed meat in the United States. Americans eat about 1/3 more of these mother cluckers than beef or pork. But that wasn't always the case. As a matter of fact, during the colonial period, chickens were so valued that veal was actually less expensive than poultry. At the turn of the 19th century, a single chicken cost about 3 times more as much as the same amount of ham or sirloin steak. The avians were far more prized for the eggs they produced than the meat they offered. That is, until the hens stopped laying. Then it was Sunday dinner. Well, the Spanish, starting with Christopher Columbus, brought cattle, pigs, goats, and horses to the New World as early as 1493. The English brought chickens with them aboard ships to the new colonies and possibly even on the Mayflower, although no livestock is recorded. At the turn of the 20th century, the birds themselves were starting to be raised as a food source beyond egg production. Beginning in the 1940s, chicken, as a meat, began to rise as a staple in the American diet. This was in part because during World War II, red meat was rationed, but poultry, including chicken and eggs, were not. Following the war, both beef and chicken were on a similar rising trajectory as a meat available for consumption, with beef at around 40 pounds per person and chicken at only 10 pounds per person. Both pork and fish remained steady throughout the 20th century and into the 21st. During the 1970s, however, the availability of beef began to decline from a high of 90 pounds per person as chicken continued on a steady increase at 30 pounds per person. Around 2008, chicken surpassed beef as an available meat, with both meeting at around 55 pounds per person. Now, chicken is at 68 pounds per person and beef is still around 55. Why the shift? Throughout the 1960s and 70s, cheeseburgers dominated the fast food market, with McDonald's owning the majority share. In 1967, at the Greenbrier Mall in Atlanta, S. Truett Cathy opened a quick service restaurant in the food court, selling fried chicken sandwiches to compete with the hamburger joints. By 1979, Chick-fil-A was operating around 100 restaurants in the southeastern part of the United States. During that same time frame, America experienced a switch to other meat after the 1977 release of a government report stating that red meat and cholesterol was a major cause of heart disease, causing consumers to seek an alternative to beef. In response, Burger King, while trying to compete with their primary rival McDonald's, expanded their menu offerings to include a variety of oblong specialty sandwiches, including the original chicken sandwich, which is the only of the initial 5 still available today. In 1979, even Mighty McDonald's was feeling the pinch and developed the onion nugget. These were gone a year later, but became an inspiration for what took the fast food industry by storm in 1983, the Chicken McNugget. By the mid 1980s, every major fast food chain was offering chicken in the form of small fried bits. Even KFC was selling them along with small chicken sliders known as Chicken Littles. During the 1990s, sales of the white meat continued to rise as ground chicken replaced ground turkey, which had become an alternative to ground beef, and products like chicken sausage, chicken hot dogs, and chicken pastrami began to appear. The idea being that these are healthier alternatives to traditional beef or pork. And this may be true, and that switching to the highly processed chicken meat products could extend your life by as much as 27 minutes while only compromising flavor. Fast food chicken accounts for over $65 billion annually, with it being about 10% of all sales, and Chick-fil-A leading the chains in volume. Baked, stewed, fricasseed, fried, in a pie or on the grill, chicken is one of America's favorite foods. Colonel Sanders knew this, so did Frank Perdue. Chicken soup will cure your cold, and buffalo wings can cure your blues. Chicken on a stick is a fair favorite, and a rotisserie bird is a quick market dinner. One of my favorites is chicken cacciatore over penne. It's just such a versatile and delicious protein that I'm not surprised that it's become part of America's most enjoyed meals. Chicken went from one of the most prized and expensive foods in colonial America to the single most consumed meat in the United States, helped along by war rationing, health trends, industrial farming, and fast food innovation. Now you know. Let's head out to the campsite and prep our chicken dinner. I hope you're enjoying this video, but I don't receive any compensation for this. One thing you can do is buy me a cup of coffee. Doesn't have to be very much. Just a couple of dollars would be great. I'll put a QR code and the link right over here. Now, let's get back to the video.
To get the chili started, we're going to want to soak the beans all day. So let me take those beans out. We'll open them up. And we're just going to place them in a bowl like this. Now you want to check to see if there's any stones or anything undesirable in there. Those look good. I'll open my water. Put in enough water to fill the container. That will allow the beans to soak all day and start to soften up. Put on the cover. And I'll see you for my supper. Cooking dried beans takes a long time. These beans have been soaking all day. I'm going to drain these beans and then we'll get started on the rest of the recipe. For this recipe, out of my mess kit, I'm going to need the large cover, small measuring cup, and the large pot. I'll put the small pot aside. So open those beans and put them right into the pot. Now you can see those are a bit of a different color because they've been soaking. Open up my ingredients. And I've got my Fritos as a side dish. Can of white chicken. 4 ounces of corn niblets. And the chili mix. To start, I'm going to want between 2/3 and 3/4 of a cup of liquid. Let's open the corn niblets and drain that liquid right into the cup. You can remove any corn that may have slipped in. Next, I'm going to open the chicken and do the same thing with the liquid from that. You only need to open it a slight bit and pour that liquid in as well. That gives me about a half a cup. I'm going to add some water and bring that right up to 3/4 of a cup. And we'll pour that liquid right into the pot. As you can see, that more than covers the beans. Place the cup aside, light the stove, and place on the cover. We'll want to bring those beans up to a boil and then lower the temperature. It's been just about a minute or so, and those beans are starting to boil. We're going to lower the temperature down to a nice medium low and just let them simmer at that temperature for about 45 minutes to an hour.
While those beans continue to soften, did you know that the Fritos in this video are sustainably produced? Frito-Lay, a division of PepsiCo, strives to be environmentally friendly. As a matter of fact, the corn chips seen here were possibly produced in Killington, Connecticut at the state's very first LEED Gold certified manufacturing plant. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, developed by the U.S. Green Building Council. That means a building is designed around healthier indoor conditions, energy efficiency, and higher sustainability standards. In short, they have gone off-grid and create much of the energy they use on site. And they've been doing that since the summer of 2009. Their 5-megawatt cogeneration system captures the heat created during electricity production and reuses it throughout the plant. Almost 100% of all energy created is used in one manner or another. Why does this matter? Manufacturing plants put a huge burden on resources that everyone uses, like the electric grid. If the grid can be relieved from that energy drain by companies making their own power, that means there's more electricity available for consumers like us. And it can mean reduced strain on regional power systems and potentially lower environmental impact from everyday products. Many manufacturers of other products have been self sustaining for years, but the food industry has been moving in this direction since only the first quarter of this century. In December 2009, at their Casa Grande facility in Arizona, Frito-Lay created the very first manufacturing plant in an existing building in the U.S. to be LEED certified. As of March of this year, according to my research, less than 1% of all food manufacturing plants in America are LEED Gold certified. As a matter of fact, according to the information I found, the only other food-related plant in New England that qualifies is Poland Springs in Maine. Well, I don't think sustainability should be the only consideration when choosing a side snack. It's still a nice thing to be aware of. And if you're wondering what any of this has to do with camping, Fritos also makes surprisingly effective emergency fire starters. Now, you know. How about we get back to the campsite for supper?
The beans have been cooking for about 45 minutes. Let's take a look. You can see that they've reduced quite a bit. Let me give them a taste. Yeah, they're pretty well done. We need a few more minutes, but we need to cook the rest of the chili. I'm going to put the cover back on and let them simmer. I'll put together the chili mix, and for that we're going to need about 1/3 cup of water. I'll measure that out. Add the dry mix right to that liquid, and then give that a stir. You want to make sure that's completely covered, getting all of the dry ingredients mixed in. Give it a little bit of a whisk. And then just add that right to the pot. Stir it in. Add the corn niblets and the chicken. Give that a stir. And then bring the heat back up to medium. Continue to mix that until it starts to thicken. Turn the heat off. Going to grab my plate. You can see that chili is nice and thick. Pour that right into my plate. Don't forget to add in your Fritos. White chicken chili with a side of Fritos. I'm going to eat my supper, and then I'll clean up my mess. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It just lets YouTube know that you like the content that I'm putting out. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It'll alert you to the videos I put out every week on the campgrounds that I stay at, cooking in my mess kit, and the gear that I use. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to share, leave them in the comment section. I try to answer every single one. In the meantime, I hope you'll get outside. And thank you for watching. Yeah, that's got some heat.